Hey guys, I can't believe we're already in fall. Where did the year go? This year I've been trying out different watering methods to see which one works best, and there's definitely pros and cons within each one. The way I'll be sharing different watering methods would be to start with the one taking the most amount of effort to the least. But first off, I want to thank RainPoint for sponsoring today's episode. They sent me this smart garden irrigation system with 2 zones. When I was away for the week, I was able to make adjustments just from simply entering the app. So you can get really specific in how you want it to help you water your plants or mist your plants. Anyway, I'll tell you more about that later on, but feel free to skip ahead if you want to learn more about RainPoint. I will put that timestamp right here. Before I share the different methods and how I water the garden, I want to point out how important it is to have a water filter because it can help to remove chlorine and different types of chemicals, and that all depends on the type of filters you get. The one I'm using is made by Boogie Brew. So I just have that attached to the beginning of an irrigation line or a watering hose. Anyway, let's get started with the first method. As you can see, certain parts of the garden has grown like crazy here, especially like this one here. I don't even know the English name of this, but it's a tuber vegetable, kind of like a different type of a yam. So this portion of the garden, I actually do not have irrigation set up. The first method is actually watering by hand. This is my hose link. Definitely worth the investment. I hated with all the hose being all tangled up and putting them away was such a pain. No matter what kind of methods we use to watering plants, we always have a watering hose, and some people really just water all their plants with a hose, with or without this what do you call this, like spray head. Let's start by talking about the pros of using a watering hose. With a watering hose, you have full control on where you want to water, how much water to give it, how long and how much pressure, or even with like a hose like this with the heads, there's all kinds of styles that you can eject water. You got the shower, you got the flat head, you got the mist, right? There's all different styles. Love how customizable it is, and it is using your own hands. You really don't waste that much water depending on how you use it. If you're just watering like I think most people do, whoops, where you just get all the leaves wet and everything, it's a much faster way to do it, but you actually don't get, you know, to water deeply into the roots. So the way I do it actually takes quite a bit of time. Sometimes it would take me like two to 2.5 hours, you know, a total each day to do this. I actually go all the way at the roots and start hosing there. Now hold it there for a while until I think there's enough water. Now another method that's similar to using a watering hose is to use a watering can. Here I got a bucket of water. Sometimes I use a watering can for, say if I add some liquid fertilizer in here, that's how I would water it. It also takes long to do, but the way you water can get very, very precise, very specific to where you want the water to be distributed. So obviously I think the biggest con to this is that it takes up a lot of time. So yeah, watering with the hose. Let's move on to the next watering method. Before I share the second method, I want to point out how useful mulch is to help suppress weed and to retain moisture in the soil. Like ones here, I got some hemp mulch here, but there's also wood chips or bark or cocoa coir, rice hull, all different types of dried materials you can use for mulching, and there's living mulch. So why not grow some kind of edible crop as a living mulch, right? And if you're interested in that, I do have a video, I'll link it below for you. So in that other section I just showed you, there was no mulching at all because it's in a really shady spot, and then now with those yams all grown up, that spot is definitely you know, in like deep shade. Mulching, I highly recommend it if it's in especially a sunny location. So the second method I want to share with you is to use some sort of a dripper. Here I have a water bottle. So just any water bottle that you emptied. I got this on Amazon a couple of years ago. And I just kind of use this on any plants that need extra water or that really likes to stay hydrated. They came in like a pack of like however many. It was really inexpensive and a really quick way to you know, use as like a little dripper. So to start off, I would poke a few tiny holes on the bottom of the bottle and then put water in. Oh, like see how water's coming out? And then you just plug the bottom part in like this. And then it comes with this like little like knob for the water dispenser. You can adjust how fast it drips or how little, like how slow it drips, or completely turning it off like that. So I think this dripping system is a good way to keep your plants hydrated for any plants that are more sensitive to, you know, the soil drying out, say like fuchsias or hydrangeas or these tubers. I added into with the yuccons because I don't want to stress out the tubers and having the soil to dry out. This spot I still haven't worked in more irrigation, so this is all like done by hand watering. So the pros to using this sort of a method is that it's really inexpensive to purchase. In fact, you probably can make your own something similar to this. And it's really good to help keep those plants that are sensitive to, you know, like heat or that are more water loving, to keep them hydrated. But for the cons of this, I would say I wouldn't rely on this to be the only source of water for the plants, especially for those water loving plants or vegetables. This would be more like a supplemental water for the plants. I would still have to hand water or have an irrigation system or something for it. But yeah, I have this just kind of like next to or in between two plants. So the other one I just showed you, I lost this piece, but this helps to stabilize it. You can use a bigger bottle to make it last longer, as long as that, you know, the mouth fits into that bottom piece. But it would be really top heavy, so it's best to kind of tie the bottle onto a stake. Another con to this method is that it still requires me to come out and refill this regularly. But it really does make a big difference just having like drop by drop feeding the plants for hours or just throughout the day, especially on a very hot day. This next watering method is something similar to the other one, but more sophisticated or even more ancient. This is an Olla. You fill it up with water. The idea is that this is an unglazed terracotta pot so that it's porous. The water would slowly seep out of there, feeding the soil, and the plant roots can just, you know, grow all around that area to pull out the moisture. So this is a pretty efficient system compared to the other one. That one was more like a supplemental watering, but this one, as long as you bury these in the soil in the recommended spacing, you would have multiples of these in your garden bed. You wouldn't need to use a watering hose on top of this. So the pros to this, definitely this is an efficient way to water. I like to get at least the medium-sized ones that are not too small. I think the smaller ones are good for burying in a container, but for like a raised bed, I think it's better off to use something like a medium size or something bigger so you don't have to keep refilling this up. But yeah, so the pros to this is that you can definitely use this as a way to water your plants. I can go without watering this bed. Maybe I just refill this 2 to 3 times a week during a really hot week. And what you're seeing in the plants right here all around are being sustained by the Olla. The plants would actually reach out and take as much water as they need. You're less likely to over or under water. The only time I use a watering hose to really hydrate this bed is during the setup. So get it really well hydrated and then, you know, bury these Ollas, fill it up with water. Another time when I would water the beds using a water hose or a watering can is when I'm fertilizing. So the cons of this, if you want something nice like this Grow Olla brand, it's quite pricey, but it is a long-term type of investment as long as you don't break it. Another thing is that it does take up, you know, quite a bit of space. With this medium Olla, the base is actually about this size, so that's around already half the size of my raised bed. So being in a small garden, I think the Ollas, they're efficient, but they don't really save me space. The more inexpensive way to make an Olla is just to find a regular terracotta pot, but make sure it is unglazed so it's not shiny at all. You just use like a regular pot, bury it, and the top you put a cover on so that the water won't evaporate. But with a regular pot, the opening is so big, water evaporates really quickly and you have to constantly refill it. Another con to this watering method is that if you were to sow seeds directly, you would have to surface water until the seeds germinate and then for another 2 more weeks after to make sure that the roots have established enough to let the Olla take over. Especially with those younger taproot type of plants like your beets and radishes, you definitely want to do that. It's not a really big deal, but if you're looking for that really effortless type of a setup, the next one would be for you. So the final method I want to share with you is actually my favorite way, although I'm still not done with this project. It is using irrigation. Now irrigation takes a little more time and investment at the beginning, but after you get everything set up, I promise you it is so worth it because the garden's going to take care of itself. I was using the other RainPoint water timer. I liked it enough until they gave me this upgrade. I like it even more because that comes with this display hub that I can see, you know, the watering schedule, everything on the screen so easily. And to set it up, all I had to do was to download the app and have it sync with the display hub and the water timer. And if you're stuck, there's a QR code that you can scan to pull up a video to show you how to do it. After pairing the water timer, I just got to do one more thing. I need to change this from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Now everything makes sense to me. Now I just have to set up the watering schedule, and I can schedule up to 6 different watering systems per day. And then over here, it even tells you how much your last water usage is. And since this is a 2-zone timer, I can actually use the other zone to set up as a misting system. So just right over here, I get to set it for however long I want it to be, how many minutes or seconds. And then the interval, I'm going to set it to 15 minutes, which means the misting would come on for 7 seconds every 15 minutes. It's in 15 seconds. And then the duration, I'm going to set it for 5 hours, which tells the system to mist for 7 seconds every 15 minutes up to that 5-hour mark. You can also conserve water because you are using a drip system and it's watering right at the base of your plants. In fact, you can go in to enter how much water you want to use instead of the duration. You can even go in to select which days of the week you want it to water. And for those rainy days, you have the option to stop watering up to 3 days. So the pros to having a smart watering system is that you can set it up just one time and then you can literally walk away. Like I was at the Heirloom Expo the past week and I was able to make adjustments, you know, just simply entering the app. So something like this is super convenient. You wouldn't have to worry about getting someone over to water your plants. The parts that I got the irrigation set up, the plants look healthy, they're thriving, versus the part that it's not set up. I was counting my dad on watering and he doesn't have experience in gardening. So some plants were either getting too much water and some were just not getting it at all because I do have a lot of plants here. The only con I can think of for a system like this is that initial, you know, investment for setting it up, but definitely the convenience and how specific I can get, you know, down to scheduling the watering definitely outweighs all the cons for me. So yeah, if you're interested in the system, I got a link with a discount code for you. I'll leave it below the video. Thank you so much, you guys, for making this far in the video. In the comments below, I'd love for you to tell me what is your favorite way to water your garden. But that's it, you guys. Thank you again to RainPoint for sponsoring today's episode. We'll see you right back here in the next video. Bye.